When did you first notice brain injury symptoms, and how did you notice them?
Well, Marcus was removed from the home after the abuse, and he was removed for about 3 months. And when he returned, he was happy, but as he got older, in school especially, he studied, but his grades weren't the greatest. And I noticed his personality. He was mostly a follower and not a leader. And he would get in a lot of things. Even though some people would label it as little mischievous thing, it was still wrong.
What are some examples?
Marcus was the kind of child, if you hit him, he was going to hit back. So one day in the neighborhood, a boy hit him with a stick. He picked up another stick and hit the boy back, and the mother pressed charges against him.
How old was he then?
Oh, he was in elementary school. So I guess he was maybe 9 or 10.
Did they take the charges to court? Was this at their right?
She took him to, yeah, she took, no, this, we had moved out base, she took him to juvenile. And he was put on probation.
And you see that as an example of what the lawyers call diminished capacity?
Yeah, because instead of thinking it out, you know, he just reacted.
What did you tell Mr. Young today?
Well, I told him, number one, Marcus was not the same person that they arrested 12 years ago. He went in, an 18-year-old, had just turned 18 April the 2nd, and he was arrested on June the 20th or 21st in 91. Mm-hmm. So he had barely turned 18, and that he was remorseful, and that Marcus was a human being. He wasn't just a number, but he was a human being, and what affected him affected everyone. And that as far as the moratorium for the death penalty, that I was asking for that simply because of other factors that played that were not presented in his case that would have weighed heavily on the outcome of his case.
Did you have given the death penalty much thought for all this? Mm-hmm. And has this changed your view? I mean, what was your view before? What is it now?
I've always been against the death penalty. But now that I've had a son who was murdered April this 26th, with Marcus already on death row, I had to make a decision how I wanted their case handled. And being a Christian and a pastor and having a son on death row, I had to just wrestle with it. That was my son that was killed, yet my son was sitting on death row accused of killing somebody else's son who loved him just as much as I love my child. But I said killing would bring Curtis back. If they could live their lives 9 times again, it wouldn't bring my son back. So I'm not out for vengeance. I just want justice and what's right.
And your son Curtis, is his last name Robinson?
No, Green, G-R-E-E-N.
How old was he?
He was 47.
You said you had a third son?
Yes, Reginald Green.
He was killed in April?
Yes, April 26, 2006.
What were the circumstances of that?
Curtis?
Yes, ma'am.
We haven't gone to court yet, and so there's not much being said. I just know he was murdered and dumped in a ditch on the side of Loon in Cumberland County.
Okay. So you feel that in Curtis's case, someone's charged?
Yes.
Okay. You don't feel a death penalty would be appropriate in that case, or not?
I don't think death is appropriate for anyone. I think when you incarcerate someone in that small cell for 23 hours a day and only out 1 hour a day for life, that's punishment. we go stir crazy. We had to be sick and stay in the house 2 weeks.
The hearing on whether they were going to pursue the death penalty on the suspect in Curtis's case was last week, and they said they weren't going to do that.
Yes.
Had you requested that specifically?
Yes.
And they said their decision was based on your request, or?
I mentioned it to the lawyer that I was against the death penalty because it wasn't going to bring Curtis back. And I'm not out for vengeance. It was wrong what they did. If they served, I want them to serve the rest of their life in prison without parole.
Did they give you any indication that if you hadn't said that they might have pursued the death penalty?
No. No.
So what would you feel would be the appropriate for Marcus?
You really want to know the truth? Do the whole trial over again and prove his guilt as being a murderer, not being guilty by association. But as it stands now, Marcus deserves life, not death.
And you're referring to the fact that during the trial it was not certain who actually pulled the trigger, correct?
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
Yes, sir. I read the transcripts over and over. I still haven't found it.
Do you think Mr. Williams did it?
The evidence that was submitted in the trial, I'll give you the papers, read the evidence.
There's no doubt in your mind that your son was there.
Yes, he admitted the fact that he was there.
I mean, you're not trying.
But for 12 years, he said he's not a murderer. But he was there. He's guilty by association.
We fall down, but we get up. We fall down, but we get up. Oh yes, for a saint is just a sinner who fell down, but we couldn't stay there, and God sing now.
We fall down,
oh, mama,
but we get up.
Get back
We
up.
fall down,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
we get up.
Get back up.
We fall down,
Oh my, my, my,
but
we get back up again.
for a saint is
Yes,
just
we
a
are.
sinner.
Oh, yes, we are. But we can't stay there. There's a seed of righteousness inside of you. Oh,
We fall down,
say now.
but we get
But we get back up again.
We fall down.
We fall down sometimes.
For those of you who have been watching, if you have any questions or comments about the death penalty, contact your local state representative, congressman, congresswoman, or the sources listed at the end of this show. Until next time, thanks for watching Hot Off the Press.